The northwest corner of New Mexico is an area which is home to many Native Americans. It's a desolate area which was handed over to the defeated Indians. Areas of land or reservations which seemed to have no value to the white man were seen as useful solutions to house uprooted tribes. One such tribe, the Navajos, or the Diné as they call themselves, has experienced tensions with a nearby Anglo town on the very border of their reservation. Tensions which built up to physical violence and murder. The town is known by the Navajos as Totah, or where the rivers meet. Farmington is a market town. It's a town whose population triples in size during the weekends when Navajos come in to trade. Their business supports this town to the tune of 70 to 80% of its gross. However, this didn't lead to a harmonious relationship in 1974, and although Navajo money was accepted, the Navajo people were not.
The events that led up to 1974, the summer of, really grew out of situations that have been developing for many years.
Tensions were really high, and leading up to that, there was probably some underlying tensions, I think, between the two groups. Looking at the community now, from my vantage point, I think that there's been a great improvement and a lot of effort put in by city officials and by government officials and just by people in general to try to improve the relationship between the two groups of people.
If you ask the Native Americans, the Navajo people who come here and shop from all the chapter houses in America to the south or to the west, or even the Ute Indian tribe, that things have changed, that it's a friendly community, there is no hostilities towards racial, and I think the racial tensions have really diminished on this.
No, we would be ignorant to think that racism is no longer there, that we're not being discriminated against.
There's a law that's made, and that was made against us, and that's how we lost all this so-called United States, and we're in that corner. It's more reservation, the rest is all being taken over. And so how did we get like that? It's because of the law.
They've culturally not come in to join what we call the modern society. They haven't been educated to do it, they're not equipped to join. They were very backward in the sense of commercialism. Very few lived in the city. They came into town for business reasons. They lived an entirely different life than we did.
We became accustomed to this kind of treatment by the newcomers, and we didn't see it to be too much out of the ordinary. And I think that was the case until here in the early 70s when some of the folks up Farmington, the younger people, began just abusing Navajo people, specifically doing physical harm to different Navajo people.
The issue came to a head in 1974 when the bodies of two Navajo men were found in an open area just north of Farmington called Chokecherry Canyon.
We proceeded to go to Brown Springs, which is in Chokecherry Canyon, investigated the death of a Navajo man. The scene had been trumped over pretty bad by picnickers that had found the body. We picked up some small items that we felt was instrumental in investigation, and went ahead and left the scene. And then later that same day, that night, about dark, received a call another body had been found just a mile or so from the first body.
A lot of people thought it was race. I don't think it was race. I think it was the fact that they were down town, passed out, easy, convenient thing for them to pick on, because one of the young victim or suspects, his mother had died as an alcoholic. He just did not like any alcoholic, and he personally told me that it wouldn't have made any difference what their nationality or ethnic background or anything was. If they were drunk, that was his problem.
At that scene, we found some small firecrackers. Of course, they were put in a bag and tagged. When we released the body to the medical examiner to take for autopsy, come back that this body had had firecrackers placed in his anus and in his nose and exploded, and we had other firecrackers in the bag as evidence.
It was terrible. It was, whether regardless who did it to who, it's a tragedy. But it was a tragedy because more so because it was kind of a rite of coming out for the high school kids, something that they participated in on a regular basis, taking advantage of the people that were on Main Street that were intoxicated, couldn't help themselves, and it just not lowered it to that position until that particular time.
Word got out that the police needed help, and after the third victim was found, an informant told the police to speak to a local boy who worked at a Shell station.
4 o'clock when he come to work, Bob Miller and I picked him up, and it was like turning on a water faucet. When he started talking, he couldn't stop. Told us everything.
He was only involved in one of the actual cases, but he unlocked the whole thing by the fact that he was involved in the one, and then talked to one of the other young men, and he admitted his part in all three, plus implicated the person that was actually the ringleader of the outfit.
It was kind of a game. They find a drunk man, an Indian man, put him in the trunk, find him downtown, put him in the trunk of the car, take him up, kick him around, burn him a little. One thing led to the next, and the first 2 bodies that were found, their skulls had been crushed with big rocks, where they had just thrown the rocks against their head.
How many kids did this?
3 boys in their mid-teens.
When those incidents occurred, the Navajo community really had enough. In the summer of 1974, we marched on Farmington for several successive Saturdays. And Saturday being the biggest shopping day in Farmington by people from the whole Four Corners area, mostly Navajos. Part of the message was a boycott. We boycotted all of the business establishments in Farmington. And this occurred for, I believe, 6-7 Saturdays in a row.
Within 6 weeks of my election, that's when the first riots and so forth took place. So I was thrown into the fire before I had really gotten my feet wet in the administrative duties of the office. I felt that first time they paraded, I felt just a little bit like Custer. I was surrounded with nothing but brown faces when I got up on a truck platform to address them up at City Hall. The leaders of that coalition were politically motivated. They've told me that themselves. And they used this as an instrument to become better known with their own people and to elevate themselves in the eye of their people. They would picket my place of business every Saturday as they paraded. They hung me in effigy, abused me all during the week and the weekends particularly. But Monday, Tuesday, they'd come up the back stairs to my office and we'd visit. And as a matter of fact, that summer I sold 3 or 4 cars to the leaders of them. We became very good friends and have remained friends over the years because of it.
What was your reaction to hearing of the three murders in Cherry Canyon?
Anger, and a sense of revenge, I suppose, that a person's first reaction to hearing about things such as that.
Tensions rose even higher when the 3 white youths received minimal sentences at Springer Juvenile Hall in the nearby town of Gallup. What was your reaction on hearing that the 3 youths responsible for these deaths received very, very light sentences?
Disappointment, but I think that realizing also the justice system as it applies to juveniles, that it was a feeling of perhaps helplessness.
Well, I think you have to understand the legal ramifications of the state of New Mexico with youth. And I think they were juveniles, and I believe they received the maximum sentence allowable for being convicted as young people, as youth. If they'd been adults, they'd have gotten some more severe penalties.
In New Mexico, even to this day, a lot of those laws haven't been changed extensively. To a great extent, somebody under the age of 18 here, pretty much their maximum sentence today is pretty much limited to 2 years, from shoplifting to murder.
As far as I can remember, there was only one riot, if we can even call it that. For the most part, they were peaceful marches, peaceful demonstrations. But yes, I was a participant in most of the marches.
It was because the cavalry unit from Fort Bliss, Texas, I believe it was, came up on horseback. And that's reminiscent of the people that put the Navajo people on the long walk.
Of course, this old Army uniform set a lot of the Indian people off because of what happened years ago from the Army to their people.
And they resented that public image that was being portrayed, and they insisted they be removed from the parade. And they weren't. It was not an affront to them. It had been planned long before. And it was a figurehead that they latched onto and used.
And one of them reached up then to get a hold of the American flag from a black soldier on horseback. And when he reached and got the flag, that soldier drew that sword and put it right here and told him, "Don't you pull another bit." And he dropped it, turned loose the flag right quick.
We had one injury the whole summer, and that was one of our police officers was hit by a sister of one of the leaders of the coalition. He had his back turned at an intersection directing traffic at this parade, and she gunned her car and ran over him.
She ran at me. I jumped behind another vehicle, and the other officer was out in the middle of the street, and there was no way that I had time to forewarn him, and she ran into him.
Do you think it was understandable for the Navajos to react in the way they did?
Well, in a way, yes, in a way, no. I can see them being upset with their people being so brutally murdered, but yet being educated, they knew better.
Is it true that this Saturday, when the Sheriff Posse Brigade happened, which was also the day when the Navajos wished to march, is it true that that was also the same day that the sentences for the 3 white youths was made public?
I suspect it was not the same day. I suspect that the preceding week, maybe, the sentences came out and they gave them something to hang their hat on. That stirred them up and riled them up over it.
They wasn't, their concern really, was not necessarily the Navajo people here, but they were promoting their own cause.
And what was their cause?
Well, their cause was really trying to get a lot of things that, just like any other, a lot of the groups that you see that protest various things, they just protest a lot of it just to be doing something.
It was Navajo people that were killed. It's the Navajo community that's injured. So our collective response is justified.
Does race crime actually exist in Farmington today?
Today, I don't know for sure. That has not come to the public's attention, has not come to the police department of the city of Farmington's attention, it has not come to my office's attention. That would not be tolerated. We would take a very aggressive action to stop it immediately, and that's just not part of my administration that I'm going to be known for, is that I allowed that to happen. It's not going to happen.
Some merchants, even today, don't properly treat another race. They do treat them as second-class citizens. You get to the back of the line and let somebody else come up front, or you don't get waited on in order, you get waited on last.
Some of these bars used to put a reserve sign on the table. Even at 1:30 in the morning, those reserve signs would still be there, even though it's almost closing time. What I found out through a good friend of mine, he's an angler, is that they don't want you in here. That's why that reserve signs on the table.
I know that there was some of the stores here that wasn't too thrilled about some of the Indian people coming into their store, and that they did not probably treat them the best. But that's also not necessarily the store's fault. Have you been to some of their stores like Walmart, Kmart, or...
Yes.
Have you seen the Navajo people shopping in there?
I didn't study them as such, but...
No, but you did see them. I mean, you saw them shopping in...
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. You didn't happen to see a family that had 3 or 4 little ones that was going down through the aisles taking stuff off. You follow them down an aisle and you got to go down and pick up and gather up all the stuff that they knock off of the aisle. Did you see any of that while you was there?
Not that I recall, no, but does that happen?
Yes, it does. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of the merchants in these stores don't like to see some of these people come in.
Because the children knock things off the shelves.
And the parents let them do what they want to do.
Pulling things off the shelf, and I'm sure that happened with all kids.
How about some of the restaurants? Have you gone in and seen families eating in the restaurants? The Indian families eating in restaurants?
Actually, yes, I have.
You may not have noticed. But there'll be 5 or 6 or 7 of them at the table. And when they get through, it takes a whole cleanup detail before anybody else can go sit down, off of the floor, off the tables, and all the way around.
I couldn't say that Navajos are more messy in the restaurant than black people or yellow people or white people, you know. In fact, I would think that Navajos are neater.
They create a problem. And I know, I've been seeing it since 1962.
So to me, you know, those are frivolous excuses for the attitude that there is there.
You mentioned rolling Indians earlier on.
That was a term that the kids would go to roll and strip the drunks of their money,
yes,
and their watches, whatever they had, their valuables, and we called it rolling them.
The practice of rolling Indians was overblown completely. I was on the Farmington Police Department for a number of years, and the high school kids, some of the high school kids, like to brag about what they were doing. They was bragging to other kids to sort of show how macho they were. And it really wasn't near that much going on, because to roll a drunk Indian, what would be the purpose in it? Because they have nothing.
I stop in to a high school that's full of a crowd, full of people, and all of a sudden I was, got hit on the side of the head, and then next thing you know, there was about four different kids, you know. And then from then on, I had to fight my way out of a gym, and that's in Farmington High School.
white kids.
Yeah.